Hello again, everybody. I thought a lot about what I was going to post the next time, and I'm going to eventually continue from where I left off. But at the moment, I want to talk about somebody that I met in the early 90s. His name was Pryer, self-proclaimed high priest in San Francisco, which I just found out after doing some research on him last night, because I haven't, been in contact with him for a long time. He died in 2009, was hit by a truck, and from the injuries that he sustained from that accident, he died. He had planned at the time, in the early 90s, to break up a prayer rally that Larry Lee, a well-known evangelist, was having in San Francisco. And he was going to go into that prayer rally, and he was going to curse him. And he was going to show him that God couldn't have any power over him, and he wasn't as strong as him, and that he had way more power. And I heard, that he had threatened to do this, so I decided to go ahead and pray during the time that they were having this rally. And I spent, I guess, an hour or two in intercessory prayer, during which time I had some pretty heavy-duty experiences with that prayer. But I'll go into that maybe later. The information that I found on the internet about him had a lot of really bad things to say about him. And I didn't know him for long enough or well enough to know if any of it was true. But the short time that I did know him, I had met him when he came to go to our church for a while. He apparently needed a break from Jubilee Christian Center, and he decided that maybe, finding a new place to go and meeting new people would help with that. And a friend of mine who was an intercessor, she had introduced me to him, because apparently she had been spending time with him, her and her husband, and they had been praying for him and taking him through some deliverance, and asked me if I wanted to come over and help pray with them, because it was just the two of them and there wasn't anybody else willing to spend time with him. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And he seemed like a really nice guy, although he was involved in Wiccan, and was basically, from what I understand in the information I got on the internet, a self-proclaimed high priest, because nobody recognized him as one. It's funny because he went to that prayer rally, like I said, and he told me when I had met him at Karen's house was that he walked in there and he was going to crash the place. He was going to crash it. He was going to curse Larry. And he said he got about halfway down the aisle and he fell out. He couldn't go any further. And he was on his hands and his knees, and he said he could not move. He said he didn't know what was restraining him, but he could not move. And he eventually realized that he wasn't going to be able to accomplish what he'd come there to do, and decided to go ahead and get saved. Pretty much that's what happened. I mean, that's what he told me anyways. The media, puffed it up and made it, this real big extravaganza and all this kind of stuff. And because he was a self-proclaimed high priest, Christians, I don't know what to deal is with them. They seem to think that when they're able to get somebody who's come out of the craft like that to become a Christian, that they've got to pay all this real special attention to them and just, kind of, exalt them like really big and all this stuff. And they're just like any other person. They're not any different than any of us. They're just, doing something different than we are. But Christians tend to make a big deal out of it, and I think that's what Jubilee Christian Center did with him. And he kind of just needed some time to himself. And so my friend Karen and I and her husband, we spent some time with, praying with him, and kind of getting a little emotional right now. I'm thinking about the fact that he died, and I didn't know anything about it until last night. But we prayed with him, and he talked a lot about some of the things that he was doing, and according to the media reports, he was married. Now, he says he got divorced, and he was pursuing some other girl. This is, what he was saying. And apparently he got married again, but wasn't divorced from the first woman, and so that didn't last long. There was a whole bunch of hype about him making a lot of money his first year, like $100,000, just from doing I don't know what you would call it, what he was doing. I guess he was having prayer meetings. I don't know what he was doing, but people were coming by the droves. I mean, they were just coming from everywhere. I mean, this was like the big thing that was going on at the time. Everybody wanted to know who Eric Pryer was, and we just kind of did what we could to be friends with them and help them out as much as we could, and kind of pray with them. I was at home maybe a week or so later, and I was in my room doing my usual daily prayer time and everything. I was just kind of just doing my thing there, and all of a sudden I sensed a presence in the room, and it was a human presence. And ordinarily I would think to myself, why is there a human presence here? But I knew who that human presence was, and it was Eric. I knew that he had astral projected to spy on me, to see what I was doing, because he had a thing about the ladies. And it was really kind of upsetting, because he had invaded my privacy like that. And so I spoke to him out loud, and I said, Eric, I know you're here. This is forbidden by God, and you are never to come back and invade in my privacy like this again. And the next time he saw me at church, he walked up to me and he said, how did you know? I said, it's discernment. God has given me that gift of the discernment of the spirits. And the moment you came into my room, I knew who you were, and I had to confront you. And he was like, well, that's pretty daggone cool. I want that too, I don't know what the heck, but after that I never saw him again. But like I said, I just recently found out that he was killed in 2009, which is 10, 20 years ago. And I didn't know about it. And, we didn't keep tabs. But he was a real character. He liked being in the spotlight. He liked telling his story. In fact, he actually told me that it was kept from the public that he actually did succeed in doing something to Larry Lee. I don't know how true that is, because from what I've read in some of the media reports and stuff that somebody did a big like autobiography on him, and from what I read from that, it never said anything like that. In fact, they were trying to scandalize Larry Lee and Dick Bernal, and I mean just all kinds of stuff that was going on. But I knew Dick Bernal too, and I mean I didn't know him well enough to know what kind of a man he was, or if he was a real man of integrity or not. A lot of preachers do things that they shouldn't do, and they use the ministry as a way to make money. It's a well-known fact. I mean, it's just the way it is. But people tend to get angry with them because they say, "Oh, well, you're supposed to be this, man of God or whatever, and you're not supposed to do things like that." But you know what? People need to have a wake-up call here, because he's human, just like anybody else, and even though he's not smart enough to know that you can't fool God, you can't keep that from him, and you're going to be accountable for it eventually. Whatever, I mean, I think people think that Christians are supposed to have this certain image, and to an extent they are. But people also need to realize that we're just like anybody else. We are not perfect, and we make mistakes too. Constantly, every single day. I mean, we're not perfect. So the idea that Christians are supposed to be so perfect is just unrealistic. It's never going to happen. Because as much as you're not perfect, neither are we. It's just not going to happen. We're just like you. The only difference is that we have a relationship with God, and that we love him, and that we believe in him. And we try for the most part to live our lives in a way that would be pleasing to him. Do we make mistakes? Every single daggone day we do. Do we slip up and say a swear word now and then? Yeah, we do. We're not perfect. I mean, there was a time when we weren't a Christian and we lived just like anybody else does, who just, goes off with the mouth and does all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we're not perfect. But for the most part, I think the general population of Christians does try their best to live a life that's pleasing to God, because that's what they feel like they're supposed to be doing. That's what they feel like their life is about now. And for me, going through all the things that I've gone through, hey, I've been through it all. I mean, I've been through a lot. I grew up abused, badly abused, by my father. And I learned how to kick and fight and scratch and punch and defend myself. I mean, I had to. I was the biggest troublemaker in school you could think of, pretty much. You looked at me cross-eyed and I'd take you out. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it, because all I had to do was go home and get my butt kicked that day anyway, so it didn't matter. I mean, that was the way I was. And so, that's why I'm telling you what I'm telling you, so that you understand, we didn't start out being, or trying to be peaceful, living people. We didn't start out that way. That's not how it started for us. We all came from the gutter. I mean, most of us came from the gutter. And we know what it's like to be there. We know what it's like to live a life of fear, of tragedy, of heartache, of pain, and of sorrow. We know what everybody else goes through. And if anybody pretends that they don't, well, then they're just a fake. They're a poser. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. But I'm not going to be fake with you, and I'm not going to play games with you. I'm going to tell you like it is. The only way that I feel like I'm going to be able to get through to anybody and give them any kind of help is to be who I am and to be real. Because there's enough stuff out there that people cannot relate to, because it just isn't real. I mean, really, they just can't relate to it. And so there's a reason why some of us have come from the gutter and have come to the place that we've come to, so that we can talk to other people who are going through the same things we did. But anyways, I guess I'll tell you the experience that I had when I was praying about Eric. when he was going to the rally. This was something that really, I didn't understand it, because, I felt like, here I am, I'm trying to be a good Christian. I'm trying to, live a good Christian life. I'm trying to be a faithful Christian and serve God with all my heart. And I'm standing in the gap for this person. And I'm praying and I'm interceding. And all of a sudden, I get thrown to the floor. My hands out like this. My legs like in the position of the cross. And I start feeling snakes running all the way up my body. And I'm just thinking to myself, what the heck have I done? All I'm doing is praying for somebody. And I don't understand why this is happening to me, because this is not normal. And I continued to pray, because that was the only way I was going to come out of it anyways. And I'm feeling these snakes just wrapping themselves around my body. And then I feel like I'm even levitating, like I'm coming up off the ground. I just continued to pray, and eventually something very strange took place. It's happened to me on several occasions, actually. My voice changed into a very deep, male, monotone type voice and said, I birth a new soul into the kingdom of God. And I was blown away, because that's not something I would say. And so after that, everything calmed down, and I was okay. All the other junk went away. And I thought, man, what was that? I mean, was that an angel speaking through me or something? Because this was different. I mean, I've heard of demons speaking through people, but here I am speaking a birth into the kingdom of God, so it's not a demon. So I didn't tell anybody about that. But after reading some of the articles that I was reading about Eric Pryer, they were trying to say he was fake, and he was, he did all kinds of things. And he may have done all those things. But I know that night that the experience that he had was a for real experience, because I took that into my body somehow. I took whatever it was that I had to take to release him and to free him up in order to get that. So I knew that was a real, genuine experience that he had. Now, whether he maintained it and was faithful to it is totally beyond me. I don't know that, because I didn't stay in contact with him for very long. But in spite of the things that people have said about him, I know at one point and one time he was trying to do the right thing. And my only hope is that he didn't so totally blow it that he's not at peace anymore, that he's in torment continuously. That's my only hope. So, with that being said, I guess I'll let you guys go, let you chew on that one for a while.